by means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time man attain Bhavana. May the suffering be free from suffering, may the fear-struck be free from fear, may the grieving be free from grief, so too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arising in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay.
Yes, Bhante.
Yeah, you can ask,
Okay.
read questions for me.
So the first question, Bhante, is after a person realizes the truth of impermanence, do they still perceive objects in a conventional sense as discrete? So after they perceive the truth of impermanence, can they still see the objects as discrete?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure, when they see impermanence and realized impermanence and perfectly understood impermanence, they see objects just like anybody else sees. But this person seeing impermanence does not allow the mind to latch onto it, hold onto it, or doesn't try to hold onto it, because the person sees it's simply appearing and disappearing. When the person sees appearing and disappearing so clearly, the person is wise enough not to try to hold on to it. That is called viraga. Viraga means not clinging, not holding. And so that person sees objects, hears sounds, smells, tastes food and drinks, and experience the touch, and also knows mind objects, and in them all he sees the objects. At the same time he sees the thing that other person doesn't see. The person that person sees is the flow, flux, change, impermanence. Other person doesn't have that kind of insight, penetrative insight, wisdom, to see impermanence that clearly. That person has to intellectualize impermanence through personal experience and so on. So this is the difference between them. The one who realizes impermanence clearly doesn't have to make any effort to see impermanence. He sees impermanence. And he also, his mind doesn't try to hold on to, glue to anything, because he sees this futile, meaningless effort. That's the difference. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Bhante. The next question is seeking some advice on how to eradicate aversion. The person is saying that they understand what Venerable Dhammadina said about the underlying tendency to aversion and that it should be abandoned because it is painful. But they're wondering if you could please give some guidance how to catch the underlying tendency of aversion at the point of contact before it becomes a feeling.
Yeah. At the point of contact, you, as I said, aversion arises when you don't see impermanence. When you see impermanence, even aversion doesn't arise. So you don't have to make any special effort to overcome that, because it doesn't arise in the mind, because the dominating factor there is impermanence. That which is impermanent is suffering. That which is impermanent and suffering is without self. So aversion arises because of not seeing impermanence, not seeing suffering, not seeing selflessness. That is how aversion arises. So that person, when Dhammadina, Venerable Dhammadina did not go into all these details, but Buddha has explained, when something arises and passes away, that is samudayancha, attangamancha, asadancha, adinamancha, nissaranancha. These 5 stages: arising, passing away, and enjoyment, and then danger and abandoning. Danger, what is the danger? Danger is arousing our greed, hatred, delusion, and so on. These are the dangers. And also they all are asada, something arises that passes away. Also we must remember that something passes away, that which arises passes away, not something that exists. That is why even in Anupada Sutta, Sutta number 111, 111 in Majjhima Nikaya, Buddha mentioned about Venerable Sariputta's way of dealing whatever arises. That is, ahutva sambhoti, hutva pativeti. That is something that which was not there arises, and that which is arisen passes away. Not something that exists passes away, but something that arises and then that passes away. So the person don't hold on to contact. As soon as for that mindfulness has to be very sharp, very clear and strong. And with that strong, clear, powerful mindfulness, can see something arising and immediately coming to maturity and disappearing instantly. And therefore, one has to be aware of that. If the person has not developed mindfulness, then the person has to go through various other things to overcome aversion. Like deliberately making effort to prevent it arising, effort to overcome, effort to rouse, effort to cultivate, and so forth. Various things he has to practice, he has to do. But one who has developed mindfulness and sees impermanence very clearly doesn't have to make that much effort. And the Buddha mentioned it, na vayameta sabbeta, sabbatta, nāññāsa purusosya, nāññāng nissājiveya dhammena na vanijara. In that, na vayameta sabbatta, one doesn't have to make effort always, everywhere. Na vayameta, vayameta means making effort. Na vayameta means not making effort. Sabbatta means everywhere. So once a person attains that state of awareness of impermanence, does not have to make a special effort to prevent aversion from arising, because it does not arise. You see?
Okay, thank you, Bhante. There were two follow-ups to this question, which I think you already addressed. The second part of the question was how to catch the feeling on time and abandon it before it gets into a perception. And then the next step was how to abandon and eradicate the underlying tendency of aversion gradually so that you don't get into the phase of mental proliferation. And you already addressed these two parts.
Yeah, you won't allow it to proliferate when you nip in the bud. As it arises, you nip in the bud and get rid of it. Then once you gotten rid of it, there is nothing for you to do about it. So proliferation will be out of question.
Yes.
Okay?
The next question is a clarification of correct understanding that in daily life, even outside of jhana, when a person contemplates feelings in terms of impermanence, then the pleasant feelings do not have the underlying tendency of greed. Is this a correct understanding?
It is. It is correct. It is correct. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, does the contemplation of impermanence in any way relate to the contemplation of the water element?
Impermanence.
Does the contemplation of impermanence relate to the contemplation of the water element? So the contemplation of the four elements and then the contemplation of impermanence, how do you connect them?
Yeah. Impermanence applies to everything. Elements including, because elements themselves are impermanent. And that is exactly what Maha Hattipadopama Sutta and Maha Rahulovada Sutta mention. External earth element and internal earth element are the same. External earth element, according to this, is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selflessness. So external earth element is such a large thing, even that is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selfless. Then internal earth element is unquestionable. It is also understood that internal earth element also is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and so forth. External water element, and it is said that water element gradually reduces, minimize, finally evaporate. Then the Buddha said, Venerable Sariputta also mentioned, that you cannot even, there may not be water even to wet your ankle or your foot. That much water disappears because the earth becomes so hot and water evaporates, and then there will not be any more water outside. If that is the case, how much more quickly water element inside us disappears. And therefore we can see impermanence in both. Fire element, air element, also the same. These are not something permanent. They came into existence and they continue for many billions of years and then they disappear. So similarly, our water elements also disappear much quicker than external water elements, air elements, fire elements, and the earth element. Yes, impermanence applies to everything. Yeah.
The next question, Bhante, is how does one forgive someone who has harmed you physically or mentally?
And for that also, real medicine is impermanence. Someone who hurts somebody, that person under certain circumstances, due to certain mental, physical reasons, might have done to hurt someone, and that person who did this is impermanence, situation is impermanence, and experience is impermanence. Now, if somebody knows that, then one can easily let go of that feeling of hurt, and then immediately, any moment it goes away, disappears, the person immediately try to practice metta and think this person did such and such because of his own mental state. The person may have some physical problems, mental problems, house problems, job problems, family problems, and something like that. This person might have not been in a good shape, in mentally in good health, and therefore at that time this person has done something to hurt, and therefore I must forgive this person. That person must be very, in a way, sick, spiritually speaking. For instance, Buddha said when somebody is sick or somebody is angry, has ill will, he compared that person to a patient, one who is sick. When somebody is sick, that person does not behave in a normal way. And therefore, under such circumstances, the person can do something to hurt somebody. So, we must not harbor such in our mind, thinking, so insult me, so abuse me, so beat me, so defeated me, and so forth. Our anger, hatred, grudge continue to increase. We reinforce it. We don't think in these terms to reinforce. We always learn to forgive such a person, such a situation, and that's the way to deal with it. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. Next question is it possible that a person with anicca sanya still be prone to attachment to what he perceives as beautiful? So a person who has anicca sanya, can they still be attached to what they see as being beautiful?
No. The person may have superficial understanding of or superficial perception. Anicca sanya means perception of impermanence. Person may have temporarily, superficially perception of impermanence, for a short period. And again, the person might forget it. When the person becomes emotional, then the person will forget perception of impermanence and slide back to the unwholesome habits. So once perception of impermanence is deeply established in the person's mind, then under all circumstances the person sees impermanence. That is one of the 10 perceptions, one of the 10 perception of healing. One of the 10 perceptions of healing is perception of impermanence, anicca sanya. It is very clearly mentioned in a discourse called Girimananda Sutta. When Venerable Girimananda was sick, Venerable Ananda reported this to the Buddha and requested the Buddha to go and help him. Then Buddha asked Venerable Ananda to learn these 10 perceptions and go and recite this in front of Venerable Girimananda. It is said when Venerable memorized these 10 perceptions, went and recited them in front of Venerable Girimananda, Girimananda paid such a undivided mindful attention to what Venerable Ananda said that he got cured and his ailment fades away. So, because that Venerable Girimananda also was meditating. So with compassion, Venerable Ananda mentioned or reminded him to focus his mind on or be aware of the perception of impermanence, anicca sanya. As there is a discourse called anicca sanya discourse, I mentioned it in several times in Samyutta Nikaya, and where Buddha has given 10 similes to make it very, very clear that perception of impermanence is absolutely necessary to overcome all greed, all hatred, all delusion. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Bhante. There's the next question is actually somebody wanting to know more about this. He said that yesterday you explained feelings and you only had time to explain 2. He would like to know if there's time today to explain the rest of them, or if you want to wait for next week.
I think I would spend a little longer time to explain it completely next week. If I have to explain today, I may not be doing the justice to the subject, and therefore it is better to wait till next week.
Okay. We don't have any other questions I see right now in the chat, but I would like to ask you something, bring something up. I had a discussion with a colleague of mine that's a professor at the university, and he mentioned that the average attention span of people now is only 2 minutes.
Okay.
Less than 2 minutes. People cannot concentrate on anything more than 2 minutes. And it occurred to me that the practice of the reflection on impermanence actually helps you to develop concentration, because you have to be fully concentrated in the present moment in order to pay attention to what is happening right now. And that actually this is quite a powerful tool to remedy this problem of the difficulty that people have to concentrate nowadays. Do you have any comments on this?
Yes, that is quite true. True concentration, average people, meaning people who are not practicing meditation, and therefore it is not surprising that they cannot concentrate more than 2 minutes. But one who has developed concentration for a certain period of time, I don't know how long, that depends on the person's own personality and dedication. If the person practices that, then that person can hold concentration on for much, much longer than 2 minutes. Maybe in order to get into concentration, anybody will take little time, but one who has trained the mind in meditation, concentration, meditation, can gain it within very short period, within 5 minutes maximum, and then he is in concentration, and that person can maintain this concentration for long periods of time. Sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes several hours. I have seen this in my retreats. I have seen somebody sitting right in front of me, and we had maybe 2, 3, 4 hours practice at a stretch. This person was sitting. When somebody falls asleep, you can notice the person would be nodding and trying to fall down and then get up and fall down, so forth, and nodding. That this person, among many, of course, I remember this particular person, stays at through breakfast, through lunch, then in the evening, when we close the session, I have asked somebody to wake this person up. Until such time, this person was sitting like a rock in meditation. Because I know this person who has been practicing meditation for a long time. So, in spite of all other people getting up and going for drinking water, bathroom, or meals and so forth, this person did not get up at all. So when everything was over, I asked the person, were you really meditating? Were you in concentration? The person said, yes. I have attained jhanas. I have attained the 4th jhana. I stayed in that. I did not hear anything. I did not feel anything. My mind was perfectly clear. Everything I experienced in my body, I knew. My blood circulations and breathing and so forth, all were going on very smoothly for several hours without any disturbance. So that is possible. And practical. Of course, somebody who does not practice meditation cannot gain concentration for more than a few minutes. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. There's one quick question, Bhante. Should one deliberately slow down one's breathing in case of severe udacha despite the efforts to stay in the present?
Well, one does not have to do it deliberately. It happens to the person. Naturally, the breath becomes calmer and calmer, softer and softer, subtler and subtler, more gentle, more peaceful, if the person does not struggle. Of course, the environment has to be calm. If there are a lot of noise and movement, people's movement, and so forth, then of course it's not easy. But if the environment, that is why Buddha asked the meditators to select a quiet place, less noisy place, appa saddha, appa nighosa, vijanavata, manusarahasaya, patisallana sarupa, and so forth, 5 qualities, less sound, less noise, Nigghosha, not shouting and so forth, and not people's movement here and there. Manusaraha Sayakari, and to be able to hide away from human beings, and Patisallana Sarupa, conducive to gaining concentration. And so, Susana, what you call empty house, forest, and also a heap of straw and so forth, a place where the person can find quite secluded from sense pleasures, secluded from unwholesome mental state. Seclusion is extremely important to gain concentration quickly. Therefore, there are environmental, physical, mental qualities that we have to find to gain concentration easily. Otherwise, it takes quite a long time one has to struggle to gain concentration. When one gains the training and make it a habit, then it becomes very natural for the person to gain concentration. Okay, friends, I think these are good questions, and I don't think I have any more time to ask to answer any more questions. And I wish you all very happy day. And let me end the session with my regular metta wish. That is, may all beings who are in hospitals suffering from various diseases taken care of by very compassionate doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs, may they recover very soon and return to normal health and continue their Dhamma practice, meditation practice, and liberate themselves from not only suffering in this life, but even samsaric suffering. And those doctors, nurses, hospital staffs who are dedicating their life, sacrificing their comfort out of compassion to help these people, even sometimes they risk their own health to do all this wonderful service. May they continue their noble service and live long in good health and practice Dhamma and liberated from samsaric suffering. May those who are suffering from, those who have been grieving the passing away of their relatives, of their friends, may they be free from grief and continue their Dhamma practice and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. May all those who are victims of various situations, wars, politics, economics, and all sort of things, may they be free from such a state, have peace, happiness, comfort, liberation, and practice Dhamma and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May everybody be well, happy, and peaceful, and finally attain Nibbana. Thank you for coming, and we have our sessions next week, and I hope I can finish what I started next week. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Terwan
Thank you,
Sarnai.
Chaturi.
Terwan Sarnai. Terwan Sarnai.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you. I have
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Have a good weekend.
3 o'clock I have children.
Hi everyone, have a good weekend.
13 is almost.
Good weekend.